Um, this gentleman has a good background.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's a great pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, ex-police officer and more, a family man.
A family man, not an ex-family man, a current family man, but an ex-police officer.
Ex-police officer. Now, tell me, Mike, why did you want to go to Congress? What made you decide to do this?
Well, there are a lot of issues that affect District 20 that have been very, very important to me, both personally and professionally, for a long, long, long time. I used to teach economics at the local universities, and I do believe that our economic policy at the federal level needs a lot of help. And the way that it affects people in our everyday lives is very, very important, especially the people of District 20. Mm-hmm. One of the big issues here is how we deal with poverty, for example. And I do believe that the war on poverty has been waged very much incorrectly at the federal level for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I believe that we need deep changes there. I believe very earnestly in police reform, not defunding. Mm-hmm. As a police officer myself, I know there's a lot of things that we can do different and do better. And I believe that our communities would be stronger for it. So there are a lot of changes that we need to make.
What do you think contributes to the crime in District 20?
A lot of things. We do have a problem with the way that we criminalize things, for example. We make a lot of things illegal that don't need to be illegal.
The war. Talking about that Jamaica thing.
Well, yeah, victimless crimes, as I would characterize them, right? What we call victimless crimes. That's got to stop. Mm-hmm. Taking people to jail for drug problems is neither ethical nor smart, in my view. I think police will always be involved with drug problems, but taking people to jail when they need help is frankly counterproductive. We have a problem in this country with addiction, and we have a problem with taking people to jail and the number of people that are incarcerated every single day. And those two problems are not completely unrelated. We need big change.
Now, District 20, I've been Democrat for a while, right? And it's usually between the Democrats.
You can recover from that, by the way. You don't have to be stuck that way forever.
Right. No, but you're not running as a Democrat or Republican.
No, that's exactly right. I'm a Libertarian, a member of the Libertarian Party. And so we are the party that stands up for your rights when the government encroaches too far. For just as one example, right? We believe that one of the big issues going on these days is vaccines, of course, and how we treat our approach to COVID. I'm a big believer in vaccines personally. I'm triple vaccinated. I make my decisions the same way I believe every American man should. My wife told me to get vaccinated, and therefore I did, right? And my doctor, thankfully, supported that idea. And I think probably everyone ought to be vaccinated. But to be honest with you, I've had one course in biology. It was 45 years ago, and I wasn't particularly good at it. So if anyone is listening to this and decides to get vaccinated because I did, that's probably a bad decision. Similarly, I'm not a big fan of the government telling you that you have to get vaccinated or you're going to lose your job. I don't have a problem with the government participating in the development of the vaccines, making the case, telling us it's a good idea, explaining why, maybe even subsidizing it if it's in the public interest. But when the government goes all the way to you do what I say, or you're going to, not participate in social life anymore, not be able to go out. For me, that's a bridge too far. And so that's an example of a bread and butter libertarian issue. But I do believe that both parties, especially at the national level, have drifted away from our constitutional roots and have allowed, especially at the national level, to drift toward a little bit of authoritarianism. I think the government has gotten too big. It's taken onto itself far, far too much power. And it's time for the Libertarian Party to stand up for our individual rights.
Tell us about you.
What makes you different from your opponents?
I'm a libertarian, and I'm not a terribly interesting person, and I think that that's worth taking into account. I used to teach economics for several years at Nova University, at Barry University. I taught where I was in grad school at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I worked for the White House as an economist for a couple of years and other government agencies. I became a police officer as a second career after being an economist for probably a couple of decades. I became a police officer 11 years ago and worked in South Broward. I left the police department, 9 weeks ago to campaign full time. Had a good experience as a police officer. Obviously, there's a lot to learn, and when you do it as a second career, there are pluses and minuses. Thankfully, I was in good health, and so it was a very good experience for me. One of the things that you learn as a police officer is that it turns you into an economist. If you weren't already, it makes you one, because you see government policy in action, and not just in terms of our deep need for criminal justice reform, which of course is very important and becomes apparent pretty quick. But you also see how the government's approach to poverty matters. You see families trapped in intergenerational poverty. One generation after the next. It goes 10 years, 30 years, 50 years pretty quick. Families have a tough time getting out of poverty. And so one of the things that I believe in very much is not only taking a different approach generally, but specifically the things that we need to do are to reform, for example, the way we approach primary education. Our schools in Broward County are not very good. That is the sad truth of the matter.
But yet still they say it's good. So
pardon me, sir?
They say it's good, so are they lying then?
I don't think they're lying. They probably just are not aware. I spent enough years in Northern Virginia to know what good public schools look like. I spent enough time with private schools in this area. I took a loan against my house to send my daughter to Catholic school down here. So I learned the difference. One of my children went to public school. One of my children went to private school. And I spent years as a part-time substitute teacher in the public schools in Broward County. So I learned the difference. You learn the difference between public schools here and public schools elsewhere, and you learn the difference between public schools here and private schools here.
So basically you'd say you have a little bit of experience outside of Florida, and then coming here, you see the difference and you want to make the change for District 20.
That's exactly right. And the way that we need to do that is to open up competition. Teacher salaries would increase and the quality of education would increase if we would open up public schools to good, earnest competition. And that means making the public funds that are available only to public schools right now available to anybody. In other words, when the state collects money, when the county collects money, when the school board collects money, they make that money only available to fund the particular public school in your area. It's virtually a monopoly. But if we made those funds available so that you could go to any school that you chose, you'd have a lot more choice in your area. Trust me when I say the Archdiocese of Miami would take notice if money were available in, for example, Tamarack, Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill. If money were available to fund private schools, you would have good Catholic schools quick, and you'd have good other private schools as well. And some of those are a good bang for the buck. And competition does wonders. Not only does it improve choices, but it improves each individual school. And schools that can't cut it would be allowed to fail.
Now, let's talk about Congress. When you get to Congress, you know there's a couple of stuff that you might have to, you're going to bring to Congress, right? What are some of the stuff that you're going to definitely do as you get to the first thing you want to do after that?
First thing we're going to do is stop voting in favor of spending your money. We spend money willy-nilly far too fast at the federal level. It's a big contributor to the inflation problem we have now. It's the root cause of the debt problem we have right now. We're heading into arguably a twin financial crisis at the federal level, and nobody's talking about it. It's boring, which is why I'm here to talk about it, because I'm here on your show. You have a very interesting show. Arguably, your show is too interesting, so I'm here to make it a little bit more boring and to talk about our financial crises in the United States, which nobody wants to hear about. But that's why I'm here, right? I'm here to go to Washington and make sure that we maintain our financial health at the government level.